Hey YouTube, welcome to the Milestone 2 video for in Exilium. This video I'm going to show off the newly improved world editor, as well as a few other features that I've added to the game. Alright, so first thing, I finally sucked it up and got fraps so that my video quality doesn't look like trash. Hopefully this looks a lot better. I think it did. It does. I'm doing a couple tests before, and I think it looks a lot better. So I'm glad I finally spent a little money and got fraps. It's well worth it for any of you people out there thinking about recording videos. It's well worth it. All the other ones I've used out there, I haven't done so good. All right, so actually into the game here. First thing you'll notice is the main menu here is quite different. We basically have our three options down here so far: play Exilium, the worlds option, and then to exit the game. Play Exilium here isn't implemented yet, but when you click it, it's going to load a similar looking screen where instead of creating worlds, you'll be able to create new characters, and then from those new character tiles here, you'll be able to launch the actual game from that point. It's not implemented yet, so right now this is just showing what the worlds button here, the world screen looks like. So here it's going to display all the worlds that you have in the worlds folder. You can filter them by worlds that you've made. This should say my worlds, not my maps. Ones that you've either downloaded or gotten from transferring to the folder, or all of them all together. Right now I only have this test world created, which I've been using to just kind of test all my gameplay stuff. But when you create a new world or you add a new world to the folder, it'll show up here. Let's go ahead and create a new world. Alright, so when you click new world, it loads up the world editor here. Now, right off the bat, the two main things about the world editor here are these two panels. So these panels are both minimizable. This one here is what I call the world panel, and it manages all the kind of higher level world information, like the name, and then here's where you add all the maps that are going to go into your world. And then over here's the tool panel. Here you select all the tools to add stuff to each map. Alright, let's go ahead and create a new world. Let's call this test, or let's create a new map, test map. Oh, actually, let's call this beach. We'll kind of theme our maps here so we know what we can differentiate them. Alright, so this beach map here in this new map kind of window, you give the map a name, you select its width. So here now we have dynamically sized width and height, or you can have different sized width and height. So we can have 100 by 200. We could have a 10 by 200 map for just a really long, thin map. But for the sake of just this demo here, I'm just going to make 20 by 20. This is outside, determines whether the map falls subject to the sun's lighting. So there's an in-game sun now and an in-game time, and there's a day-night cycle and everything. So if you're outside, the light will affect that. If you're not outside, then it'll be really dark, low ambient light, like in a cave or something like that. This save on exit feature, I implemented it and then removed it. I'm going to make it a world feature instead of on a per map basis. Basically what this is going to do for the world is when you leave the world, it's going to either save the state of where all the structures are and everything in that world, or is it not going to save it, and when you leave and restart it again, it will be exactly how it was when you started it when you started. Every time it'll always load the exact same instead of saving kind of your progress in that map. So this is no longer a factor, it'll be up here in the world. The default terrain is going to set what the terrain is when the map is first loaded for the first time. So I'll just show this off by example. So let's create this 20 by 20 map here. You'll see it's completely empty right now. There are no tiles. Now we could go to our terrain texture here and paint on some dirt. Let's say we want it all dirt here. We can paint it on, and there we go. Now we have all dirt. But let's go ahead and delete this map. Delete the beach, create a new map. called beach, same thing. Now we want, let's say we want our beach to be sand. We'll just click sand here and create it, and it'll automatically instantiate all the things to sand. We'll still be able to change them later, but this helps a lot if you're creating like a 200 by 200 size map, and you don't want to have to go in there and paint this whole thing dirt. Let's say you want most of it to be dirt. You can just set this default terrain to dirt, click create, and it'll create it. Every tile will be dirt. This background hasn't been implemented yet. I started to implement it and it really didn't look good. This is going to be how you want kind of like underneath the map to look, like whether you want there to be kind of water underneath the map or lava or something like that. I kind of have an idea in my head how it wants to look, but every time I've tried to implement it, it hasn't come out that good. So right now it's just disabled. I could set this to anything and it won't do anything. So this just doesn't do anything. So let's go ahead and create our map here. So here we go. We have our 20 by 20 map. Now one of the huge improvements that I made to this world editor here is that it's 3D. So everything is 3D. You can move around, you can zoom in and out. It gives you a lot better visualization of how your world or how your map's gonna look. All right, let's create another map here. I'm gonna create another one just because I know I'm gonna use it a little later. So let's just call it the grassland. And let's keep it 20 by 20, keep everything simple, and let's just make it grass. Okay, so now we have our two maps here in our world. Right now they know nothing of each other. They're just two coexisting maps. You can switch between them by clicking on their name right here. This little square indicates which one's selected. And I'll explain these two buttons a little later. But you can go in and edit these maps too. So let's say we want to edit the grassland, make it 20 by 50 now. Save it. There we go. Now we have our 20 by 50 map. We'll go ahead and switch that back. Okay, let's go through the tools. Now let's go back to our beach. As we saw here, we have our terrain texture tool. Everything's sand, but let's say we want to change some of these to dirt, some of these to grass. And then this one down here is an empty tile. So this actually removes the tile from the map, the terrain tile. This is useful for creating this kind of effect here. We want the beach to kind of look slightly like it curves around instead of just being an exact square every time. And this is also cool if you want to make some like paths through your map like this. Like let's say you want to force the player to have to go through this path, so to speak. So that's what that's for. Another thing you might notice is that I removed the enable disable individual tile tool that I had in the previous map editor, and the reason is for that is it just became so tedious to every time, for example, you removed terrain tile here, you have to go to that individual tile thing and make all the tiles in there disabled so that the player can't walk on where there's no ground or anything. But now it just takes care of it for you. Just whenever you have an empty tile here, it just assumes that there's going to be no player movement on there, and so it just disables all tiles. It stops in the editor. Let's say we want to add a spawner right here. Can't add spawner here, invalid tile. So you have to be able to put everything on an actual ground surface. So that's terrain texture tool. Pretty simple. The terrain object tool is a new tool that I added. Right now I only have one terrain object, stone wall, and what terrain objects are they are basically structures that you cannot interact with. So it's just going to take up space, it's going to fill the tiles that it takes up so that the player can't walk through it or anything like that, but you can't interact with it, you can't destroy it, they're just to look good on a map basically. So this stone wall is meant, say, for a dungeon. We want to make like kind of a maze thing going on here, so we can just kind of tile in here stone walls. Another thing about terrain tiles is that they can take up different shapes. So this one here has 3 tiles in width and only 1 tile in height. So in order to rotate it, you can see right here, just press R to rotate, press R, and then you can paint on some other stuff here. We can just kind of whatever. If we wanted to make a maze, we could. We can remove them just by clicking in the center. You can add or remove any sort of thing by any sort of tool object by having that tool selected and clicking right in the center of where it is. But let's just make it a simple little kind of pattern here. Oops, let's get rid of that and put it there. Okay, so that's terrain objects, only stone wall right now. There will be many more to come. Spawners. I've improved this a little bit. It's basically the same, but so you select your type, your enemy or resource, select which spawn. We still only have palm tree for resource. Now we can dynamically set the width and height specifically. So we could have this long, narrow spawner if we wanted to, but let's make it 3 by 3. Just for the sake of it looking relatively decent. Let's make it so the max spawns are 3, so at any time there can only be a maximum number of 3 palm trees in this kind of green area here. And let's set the spawn rate to 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds it'll spawn one if one's destroyed. If the count is less than the max spawn, it'll spawn one every 5 seconds. This continuous icon here, or this check mark basically, is whether you want it to continue to spawn after it's been instantiated or not. So basically, if you add a spawner to a map, when the map is first loaded in the game, it instantiates all of them. So for example, we have max 3 spawns here. So if we put a palm tree spawner right there, when the map is first loaded in the game, all 3 will be spawned in a random spot within this yellow square. I added kind of a visual thing here. I think it really helps visualize how your world's going to look. You can see the palm tree and you can see this yellow kind of square of influence here that everything's going to be spawned in. So it's going to spawn all 3 of the palm trees immediately when the map is loaded in the game. Now if this continuous button is checked like it is right now, once you harvest, let's say, all the wood off of the trees, it will continue to spawn and there will always kind of be 3 trees roaming around in there. But if this continuous button is off and we added another spawner, then as soon as we remove one, no more will spawn. It only spawns initially and then it stops. So that's a good way if you want to add just like only 10 enemies to a map, and then as soon as you kill the 10, there are no more enemies. You would just uncheck this continuous spawner. But let's keep it, for the sake of our demo here, let's just do this. Let's just keep them continuous. Alright, and let's add a little dummy spawner. Let's make it 2 by 2. Max spawns 2. We'll just put some dummies right here, and then we'll put some wolves right here. So as you can see, I've added indicators for each of the spawners. It just takes basically a plain model of the actual animal, puts in there. Here the wolf, you can see it's just animated sitting there. It's kind of a cool effect, and definitely, like I said before, helps visualize how your world's going to look. Alright, so let's go to the structures. The structures are basically the same. We only have our wood block right now. You can have friendly or enemy structures. So we can put our friendly structures there and our enemy wood blocks here. Now you can see that enemy wood blocks are indicated by a slight red tint, and friendly structures are indicated by a slight green tint. That's it for structures. Now portals are important. Here, portals are how we are going to be able to transfer between maps and how you set the starting tile of a map. Now let's go ahead and set the starting tile of this map to right here. Now the significance of the starting tile is that whichever map here is first on the list is the one that is going to be loaded first into the game, if it is not a save on exit world. If it's a save on exit world, it'll save your position that you were in before, and that's where you will load in. But if this is, let's say, a challenge map that you're going to start at the same place every time you load the world, or even for a save on exit world, the first map that you'll ever load into, it needs to have a starting tile. I think it's generally good practice to put a starting tile on every single map, just in case, but you only really need one on whichever map is this first one here. Now, like I said, whichever map is this first one here is going to be the one that's loaded first, but let's say we want this grassland one to be loaded first, then we'll just have our beach one selected, click this arrow down, and it will move it down. If we have like 8 maps here and we want this 8th one to be the first one, we would click on the 8th one and then just kind of arrow it all the way, push it all the way up to the top till it was the top one. And then this first one's the one that's always loaded first. So we put a starting tile here just for good practice. Let's go to our grassland one and put a starting tile in the middle, just in case we want that to be the first one. Then we will load right there. All right, back to the beach. Now let's put a portal 2. So this portal 2 indicates where you're going to transport to. So let's put, we'll notice here that we want to select which map we actually want to go to. So we want these portals to go to the grassland. So let's put these 3 tiles here as portals to the grassland. So every time we walk on these 3 tiles, we'll get transported to the grassland. Now to complement these tiles, we need to go to the grassland and put a portal from the beach to say right here. So when we walk in those tiles, we'll be transported to right here in this map. Now in here, let's put a portal back to the beach. Let's put three of them down here. Same kind of a thing there. Let's go back to our beach, and let's take a portal from the grassland and put it right here. So now that we can transfer back and forth between each other, and we have 2 starting tiles for just in case we want to change which map is loaded first. And that's basically it for the portals. If you have a portal to somewhere, you need to make sure you have a portal from that map into the map where the portal is going. Alright, last structure I have in place here is the event structure. Now the event kind of panel over here looks exactly the same as the new the map panel. We add events to maps. The world as a whole is what kind of governs all the timing and everything of the events, but an event can only be mapped to a specific map. So let's create a new event here. This will load the event window. We have to give the event a name, so let's just call it, I already know what I'm going to do here, so let's just call it dummy spawn event. You could give it a description if you want. If you're wondering why the map is moving around in the background, it's because I have the you can pan across the map and stuff with the WASD keys, and then you zoom in and out with Q and E, and so every time I hit one of these keys, it's still capturing the event for the map. I'll have to fix that, but nevertheless, you add your event name, event description, and then the event type here. You have a mass spawn, kill boss, clear map, protect structure. I think they're relatively self-explanatory. I'm not going to go too much into them right now. Maybe I'll do a little thing about the events later when I have more event types figured out. But right now, let's just do a mass spawn. We pick the starting day. Right now, the game always loads in at Sunday at 6 a.m. So let's make this start day Sunday at 7 a.m. is when it's going to start, and it'll last an hour. Next thing we have to do is we have to add enemies. So here we select whatever enemy we want. We can add it, remove it. This is a dummy spawn event, so let's just add dummies there. This boss select and structure select or for other event types that they're not going to be a factor right now. Now these triggers here, each event, when it finishes, no matter how it finishes, whether the duration finishes up or you actually complete the task that the event needs you to complete, it will either, or you fail the task, it'll either succeed or fail. And based on what it does, you can select other events here and have them triggered when this event starts. So there are no events over here right now. If you can see through this, there's no events, so we have nothing to choose from. There's only none. But let's create this dummy spawn event. Now let's go in and edit our dummy spawn event. And now if we go to our triggers, we can see that we have the dummy spawn event here. So if we select dummy spawn event for both of these, we would have a continuous chaining loop of dummy spawn events. One would start, and as soon as it ended, so after an hour, it would stop, trigger the dummy spawn event again, and go again and again and again and again. So we don't want that, so we'll set it to none. But this is helpful if you want to chain together a bunch of events. For example, protect structure event. If you either do or don't protect a structure, you start something else, and I'll actually be able to fill out, you can actually kind of form a story, quote unquote, with your chain of events. So let's cancel out there. We have our dummy spawn event, and that's fine. And you can add multiple events and have them all chaining to each other, so on and so forth per map. And you'll see if we go to the grassland here, there's no events, but on the beach we have the events. Alright, so that's the new world editor. It's very flexible. Some of the tools I'm still going to add to it are NPCs. You're going to be able to add NPCs and talking with them, add a very basic dialogue tree, so to speak, from talking to them if you want. And based on that, you can launch events or so on and so forth from them too. So NPCs are going to play a pretty big part in that too. Alright, but more on that later. That idea still needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. Let's go ahead and save our world. Oh, we need to give our world a name here. So let's just call this test world 2. We should be able to save it. World saved, perfect. Now we can exit back to our menu, and we'll see now we have our test world 2. Now the worlds will fill up here, and as they expand and go beyond this kind of panel here, a slider shows up here, and you can slide it and scroll down, and once again the filter will work. But once you click on one of these world tiles, it loads up this kind of world window here, and in here is where you select your character that you want to play this world with, and it will have, if it's like a challenge world, it'll have kind of your previous times or your records or awards or whatever. Like I decided to kind of put in here. All the world info is going to be here. Here you select your character. From this window, if it's a map that you created, you can go in and edit it again, whatever. If not, you'll be able to just enter the world with the character you've selected. So let's go ahead and enter our world. So as you can see here, our world is exactly how we created it. We have our 3 trees over here. We have our 3 palm trees over here. We have our wolves, our dummies, our structures, and then our walls here. And what's cool about the walls is that I've added a nice little transparent effect too, so that if you walk behind a terrain object, you will still be able to see your character. Alright, another thing you'll notice is that our character here is completely different. I have created a new character model, created new animations. I'm going to text. He's still not texture or anything. I'm working on all that stuff right now. That's why he's just this plain kind of beige color. I just worked on getting the mounting points correct. So let's pick up this dagger, and we'll go ahead and open the inventory. Dagger is on there. So the mounting points are working. This is still very much just something I'm working on right now. It still needs to be fleshed out. Alright, so we'll see the time 6:58, and what do you know, a bunch of dummies have appeared on the screen for the mass dummy spawn event. I will have to add in indicators for when these events start, so on and so forth later. But now we can use this dagger, kill the dummies. We didn't set any trigger, so as soon as the duration is done, so at 8, sorry, all the dummies will disappear and the event will end. Alright, let's go ahead and show off the portal. So up here, if you remember correctly, we added portals in these 3 squares to transfer to the grasslands. So let's step in one, and voila, we got transported to the portal from tile in here in the grasslands. So we just have our empty grassland map right now, and we can run back to our beach through the portal. And there we go. So portals are working. That's about it. Another quick thing that I just want to show off is for structures here. You can double click them to deconstruct them basically, but I created a deconstruction timer. So now when I double click on one, you'll see it takes some time to actually deconstruct a wood block into the item. The idea behind this was, let's say you make a turret and like some enemies are attacking it and it's low on health. You can't just walk up and immediately, deconstruct it and pick it up and re-put it out there again. Now you actually have to wait, and if you get hit, or let's say you try to deconstruct it, you move, it cancels it, so that just kind of prevents you from being able to just quickly pick stuff up and re-put them back in with full health. So that's basically it. Next updates, next milestone's probably going to be when I have a lot more of the character fleshed out and hopefully get some NPC stuff going, because I have some pretty ambitious ideas for how I want the NPCs to interact. Simple yet ambitious. So anyway, that's all I have this week, guys. Go back to the menu here. If you like this video, please feel free to comment, rate, subscribe, let me know what you guys think. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.